Hello and welcome to Technical Writing. I'm your instructor, Dr. Benjamin Smith. You can call me Dr. Smith, you can call me Ben, whatever you're comfortable with. It's totally fine by me, nothing too lewd or anything though, okay? So, in this class, one of my favorite classes to teach actually, I love teaching technical writing. I think it's incredibly important for all students across the campus to take technical writing, no matter what field you're going into. And you'll see why as we go along, but mostly I think it's the most practical class you can take on campus. This is a class that can teach you how to get a job. It's pretty great. And it can also, if you take it far enough, teach you how to write in any environment, no matter where you're at. Because I'm going to teach you the skills to deconstruct and then reconstruct various genres that you can apply to anything. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, at least I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I'm going to go over the syllabus in this video, and throughout the class, I'm going to give you a number of videos introducing and explaining things as we go along. This is not going to be your typical online class. As I told you in the announcements, if you read that, I've never taught this class online before, and I'm perfectly comfortable admitting that. I taught it a number of times in multiple campuses in person, and I like doing that because we're going to use a lot of group work. However, because we're doing this online, we're going to coordinate a few things a little bit differently than normal. But we have tools like Google Hangouts and Skype and FaceTime where we can have meetings and not be in the same place. We're going to rely on internet research. We're going to rely on maybe phone calls if we have to. Whatever works, basically. Okay? Now, having said that, some of you are probably anticipating a class in which you can do all the work at once and be done with it. It's not going to work like that. There are tools that we have to build on slowly as we go along. So, for example, when you're writing the instructions, it's really helpful to write them as the lessons unfold rather than doing them all at once. For one thing, it's a huge project and really important, but a huge project. In the job documents, it's important to find those things step by step by step. Same thing with the proposal and same thing with the report. And in those last two especially, you really can't get ahead of yourself in those things. It will gum up the results and it will make your life a lot harder than it has to be. So if you're looking for a class where you can dive right in, get all the work done, and have 17 weeks off, this isn't it. And if you don't want to be in that sort of situation, I respect that decision and have fun with the rest of your semester. But I'm going to tell you up front that I'm not going to give you every single document you're going to need right up front because you're going to need to understand one before another as we go along. Okay? So that's sort of the overview of how the class will function. And I wanted to tell you that ahead of time because, like I said, this is sometimes an experiment for me doing this online. And if, as I've told you in the announcement as well, part of my PhD involved assessment procedures. I'm an expert in that field. And so I know if something's not working that it's not necessarily your fault. It could be my fault too. And I'm going to take that into account. If something just falls flat, we're going to move on and not worry about it, okay? So, say okay like you can hear me. Like you're responding, you can certainly hear me. Okay, so the syllabus. This is the video for the syllabus. I will be posting some things like the first assignment sheet later today. I'll be posting a few more things. But expect multiple videos per week where I will explain little pieces of the overall puzzle of those assignments. Okay, and I'll guide you through my thought processes, the book itself, all those things. Examples we'll be reading and taking from. I've got a backlog of stuff from teaching the class so many times. And I'll certainly give you examples from my own life, from friends and colleagues who have taught this class as well, and as well as former students who are kind enough to give me their work as a nice gesture, basically, to use as examples. So, okay. So, you can find me through email. It's really the best way to get a hold of me. I have online office hours on Wednesdays, but I do check my email every single day. You're just absolutely guaranteed to have a response during those online hours. My in-person hours are from 4 to 7 on Mondays and Tuesdays, and you are welcome to stop by, say hi, so just walk in. I may have someone already here talking to me, but it'll be a few minutes and then we'll get you in. If you need to make an appointment, let me know. You're certainly welcome to make an appointment outside of those hours. If you could only meet, say, on Friday afternoons, I can make that work. Okay, just let me know ahead of time so I can schedule it. Okay, this is an online class. It's required that you have Comp 1 and 2 and that you're a junior. I have made some exceptions, and I'm happy to do that in the right circumstances, but typically it does help to have at least those 2 classes under your belt. That's sort of my lowest limit of requirements. You have to have those classes. They teach you research and critical thinking. I mean, I teach those classes. I know what they teach. So we're looking at methodology for technical documentation. We're looking at making you a professional who happens to write, not a writing professional. In other words, if you're taking this class solely to be a technical writer, this will not be your only class in that regard. You'll take a lot of other classes. But if you are an engineer, a marketing student, a business student, an English teacher, if these are things you want to be, then this could help you in all of those avenues and many, many more. Okay, but the idea is that maybe you're not a writing professional. Maybe your job isn't like an editor job or a writer job, but your job is someone who writes a lot of memos within their job. You write documentation within your job. You're part of groups that produce documentation. That's part of your job. You're a professional who happens to write. That's our kind of catchphrase in the field. Okay, so we're going to make you rhetorically aware. Now, when I say that, a lot of my students kind of chuff a bit, and they don't like the word rhetoric in technical writing. They're more STEM students who kind of want a linear approach to things. I'm not going to use the word rhetoric as much as you might think, even though I am a rhetorician. That's my primary area of expertise. But what I am going to do is show you how to think about your audience and their expectations and how that comes across in your writing. A real simple way I can explain that right now is if you start a sentence with a verb versus anything else, right? Your action then precedes in importance. You're emphasizing that action over a situation or a noun or something like that. That's the basic level we're talking about. And again, I didn't use the word rhetoric there at all, right? I could have, but I didn't. Okay, we're going to show you how to plan, revise, work with others to make professional documentation. You'll probably learn Word a little bit better. You'll probably learn Pages or whatever program that you're using quite a bit better by the time this is all over with. Lord knows I did when I started doing this stuff. When I started teaching technical writing, I became a Word and Excel whiz, and didn't take very long either. Okay, so we are going to have you do a bunch of tasks. That is, analyze your communication situation, plan appropriate communications, i.e. memos, gather data, organize and structure your instructions and reports, evaluate effective communication, all these sorts of things. It's a huge list. Go through it yourself in your own time. I don't want to go over this thing line by line. I'm sure you don't either. We'll mostly be using written instructions and videos that I will link of me just like this in my office or my home office, talking to the camera and hoping that someone's watching the entire thing. I trust that you will, by the way, even though I can see the analytics on YouTube of who's watching what and how much. It's a little disheartening at times, but I trust that you're going to be watching all of it. I don't spend a lot of time on that stuff. Okay, so we have 4 major projects: job documents, instructions, proposal, and report. They are integrated on a whole, on a macro level, but in a way that you won't really see for a while. But the idea is that by the time you're done with this class, you'll have the tools to easily get a job. And indeed, many of my students have come to me during the class, having gone to a job fair and saying, I got an internship that's going to turn into a job. I just know it. Because they use what we were teaching, what we were learning together. They were learning how to apply to the company, not to a job. Okay, that's one of the things we're going to learn as we go along. Maybe you already have a job, but maybe you also want to look around and see what else is there. Maybe you want to see ways that you can improve your current skill set so that you can be of more value to your company. That could be a thing too. Okay, a lot of reasons you might take this class. We're going to have one book and only one book. Unfortunately, it's a rather expensive book, and I apologize. It's gone up in value quite a bit. The book that bear with me here, the book that I wanted to use is Technical Communication Strategies for Today by Richard Johnson Sheehan. It's an amazing book. I'm a big fan of it. Unfortunately, this has a new edition out, and as you probably know, new editions means more money. There are not substantial changes to these books. If you get the second edition, great. I will be getting my desk copy of a second edition very soon. However, I'll be updating the syllabus with the correct chapters later today. And I'll note that in the file name as well, so you'll have the correct one. The chapters are mostly the same. There are new examples. There's some rewording of some things here and there. But the chapter order is what's very different. They've taken out an entire chapter and moved around about half the book, so it can be very confusing if you just use the current syllabus. I'm going to fix that. So get the second edition. It's an all-white cover with big blue letters. I apologize for the confusion. It's just what happens. I've been using this book for years, and that new edition came at a time in between me teaching technical writing. I taught my last class of technical writing about 3 years ago, and it came out about 2 years ago. So I talked to the bookstore. They assured me they can get the first edition. They didn't, and so you should have the second edition. Okay, big white cover. 2015 is the latest copyright date, if that helps. Okay, again, I'll fix it. Grading policy and scale, 1,000 points, the usual yada yada stuff. We've got a fairly lengthy schedule going on here, and what I've done is taken several of my old course plans and put them together for the online class on a weekly basis. These weeks are often split into 2 sections, okay? What that's going to mean is I'm going to treat this class like a Tuesday, Thursday class. And I'm going to try to upload things at least by Monday and Wednesday so that by the time you get them on Tuesday, you'll have them available to you. Of course, that's not going to happen this week. I'm going to have them a little bit early for you, obviously. So each particular box in that table has a few topics that I'm going to go over for you with those particular topics. Now, if you ever have any questions, absolutely please tell me. Please tell me. I'm happy to answer questions as soon as possible. I don't like it when students are in the dark about anything. I really don't. It makes me just frustrated. I don't like being frustrated, frankly. I want you to do your best. Now, on the 4th column, there's a major assignment due date. Now, you'll notice that we are a revision-based class. That gives you the opportunity to improve your score. Typically, the average improvement's about 10 to 15%. Now, that's a grade level and a grade and a half. I strongly encourage you to revise. However, you're not required to. If you just turn in the same stuff, it won't dock your grade. I will just give you the same grades before. I will never lower your grade going from the original to revision. So in the rare instance that you screw something up, by the way, it's never happened to me in 11 years of teaching for any class, I promise you that I will give you the old grade and say that was a better draft. Let's go with that one. Certainly have been some cases where some wires got crossed in communication, and but even then, overall, the document was better. Whatever it was, an essay, job documents, whatever. So I'm not too worried about it being worse. I want you to make sure that you have the best available documentation for you for anything, especially when it comes to job documents and the report. Job documents because it's so important, the report because it's worth so much for your grade. So I do want to just address an issue about group work. We'll have an evaluation memo going on with the group work, and what that means is when you turn in your projects, you will also have a memo regarding your teammates. And I'll go into this in more details, but basically this is a way for you to not have anybody slacking on your team. I know that some of you have been the person who slacked before, and some of you have been the person who takes up all the brunt of something. We're going to assign tasks and assign roles to people within the groups. Now, that will make everyone's life a little bit better, but if someone drops off the face of the planet, as it has done for me, makes your job that much harder. But I will take that into account. My hope for you is that you have a new appreciation of group work, at least a little bit. I know we all hate group work, but I found that if we leave it to the wild, right? If we just say, here's a thing, go figure it out as 5 people, then that's when you kind of hate group work. But if you say, you're the person who's going to find the data, you're the person who's going to interview folks, you're the person who's going to write up the conclusion section, etc., then people are a lot happier because everything's sort of defined for you at that point. And that's what we're going to work from. So while you may hate group work, I'm going to try to make it better for you, at least a little bit. You may still hate it afterwards. Okay. But I've been that person who takes on the entire report before, or the entire project before, paper, whatever it might be, and people benefited from my work in ways they probably shouldn't have. Well, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We're going to be fair about all of this. Okay? So, last thing, again, if you have any questions at all, if you have some accommodations you need to be make me aware of, feel free, let me know. If things are coming up, and you can let me know ahead of time, that's best. So, just so you know who I am, because I kind of alluded to it a little bit. I have a PhD in rhetoric and composition and a secondary area in technical professional writing from OSU. I've got a master's in English with a focus in film studies from UCO and a bachelor's in film studies from OU. As you can tell, I've told this speech before. I'm a big fan of guitar and retro gaming, which was contemporary when I was growing up. I read a lot, obviously. I have an enormous comic book collection, and just really enjoy teaching writing because I love to write, and I've written and been published for just about every genre I can think of that you would care about. I've had plays of mine performed, I've won awards for essays, I've been published for adaptation theory in multiple outlets on the philosophy of time. I've had poetry published. I like to write. I think it's just an amazing form of expression because it's so versatile and yet so vague at times. It's this weird paradox. I'm a big fan, as you can tell. I will probably be making only new videos for this class because, like I said, it's the first time I've taught it. I may incorporate some of my composition videos. If you had those classes with me, I apologize. But if so, you might see a bit of a change. I'm currently letting my beard and hair grow quite a bit just because I feel like being in college again, like I was as a 21-year-old with crazy hair. So those might have very short beard and short hair, who knows. But you can see the journey as I keep growing it out. Isn't that lovely? I got my background in teaching doesn't come from an education degree, as I've told, you probably can infer from the lack of credentials of an education degree. I started teaching when I was a master's student, and I've always attributed my background in improv comedy and playing music as what got me in the classroom, what made me a teacher. It allowed me to think on my feet, to roll with punches in situations, and so at times I may not seem very serious, but I assure you that I'm a fairly serious person who just likes to crack a lot of jokes. So, having said all this, that's a lot to take in, I understand. If you are still hesitant and you want to get everything done right away, maybe find a different class. If you are a little hesitant about the workload, you might find another class. But if you're willing to try, and you're willing to work hard, and you're willing to work with others, and to carry on with this sort of crazy journey, I think it'll be really, really fruitful. Okay? So, have a great week. Enjoy your semester. Please let me know if I can do anything for you, and I will talk to you very soon. Okay? Have a good one.